Welcome to our deep dive into Lois Lowry's The Giver.
Yes.
We're going to be kind of exploring the novel's, key themes and offer some insights that you can apply
Absolutely.
when teaching this work to your students.
Yeah.
You're thinking about using this book in your classroom.
Yeah.
So we're going to break down, why The Giver is such a fantastic choice.
It's a story that resonates, across generations and for good reason.
For good reason.
It tackles these, universal questions about identity and society and the human experience
Right.
in a way that's both accessible and deeply thought-provoking for young readers.
It is. Yeah. And so I think, that's one of the things that makes it such a popular choice for classrooms. So let's unpack, kind of that first big question.
Okay.
Is Jonas's community a utopia or a dystopia?
Right.
On the surface, it seems like everyone's got it made.
Mm-hmm.
No war, no poverty, no unemployment. It's all about peace and stability.
Yeah.
But is it really?
Well, and that's the cleverness of Lowry's writing. Okay.
She presents this seemingly perfect world
Right.
and then slowly peels back the layers to reveal a much darker truth.
Ooh.
Sameness and security come at a steep price. The loss of individual choice, authentic emotions, even color.
Wow. So what does that look like, in practice, for
Yeah.
example? Can you talk about the concept of release?
A release is essentially euthanasia,
Okay.
but presented in a way that initially seems benign.
Right.
It's used for the elderly, the very young, and anyone deemed unfit for the community.
Unfit.
What's disturbing is how casual and sanitized it is.
Yeah. It's like just like on the routine procedure.
Exactly.
And as Jonas becomes the receiver of memory, he starts to understand the true horror of what release actually means.
Yeah, it becomes a powerful symbol of the community's control over life and death, their suppression of individuality and dissent.
It's really powerful. I
Yeah.
mean, and that raises some really big questions for your students to consider.
Right.
What would you give up for a so-called perfect society?
What are the potential dangers of valuing conformity over individuality?
Exactly. And that kind of leads us to the power of memory.
Okay.
Jonas has chosen to receive the memories of the past, both the joyful and the painful.
Yeah.
So in a society that's erased history, why is memory so crucial?
Well, I think it's like memory is the key to unlocking what it means to be human, right? Understand ourselves, our emotions, and the world around us.
Precisely. The Giver tells Jonas, memories need to be shared. It's the meaning of everything.
Wow.
Without memory, we lose our sense of identity, our capacity for empathy,
Yeah.
and our ability to learn from the past.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, thinking about the classroom,
Yeah.
this is a theme ripe for exploration.
Absolutely.
You could ask your students, do we learn more from our mistakes or our triumphs? How do our personal memories shape our values and beliefs?
Right. And there are so many powerful examples in the book
Yes.
that you can use to illustrate this. Jonas experiences the warmth of family, the thrill of a sled ride,
Yeah.
but also the horrors of war and loss.
And there's that incredibly vivid scene
Oh, yeah.
where he receives the memory of an elephant being slaughtered for its tusks.
Right.
It's the moment when the color red truly comes alive for him in this intensely powerful and disturbing way.
Absolutely. That scene is such a great example of how Lowry uses sensory details to convey the impact of memory.
Right.
It's not just an intellectual exercise for Jonas, it's a visceral emotional experience.
Yeah. It's a feeling. It makes you wonder, would you have the strength to carry the weight of the world's sorrows?
Right?
To hold on to those painful memories for the sake of humanity?
Mm-hmm.
That's a powerful question to pose to your students.
It is. And speaking of powerful questions, the novel also forces us to confront the tension between individuality and conformity.
Okay.
Jonas is different. He sees things others don't,
Yeah.
which makes him both special and dangerous in his community.
Right. And his ability to see color, for instance,
Right.
sets him apart.
Mm-hmm.
It's a visual metaphor for his awakening consciousness. His ability to see beyond the community's carefully constructed reality.
Absolutely.
And that difference makes him question everything.
Right.
Why is there no color?
Yeah.
Why do they release people?
Mm-hmm.
Why does no one seem to feel true emotions?
Exactly.
And he tries to share his insights with others, like when he tries to transmit the color red to his friend Asher.
Right.
But he fails.
Right.
It highlights the isolation that comes with seeing the world differently.
And that isolation is a key part of Jonas's journey.
Okay.
He's chosen to bear the burden of memory, but he's also burdened by the knowledge that he can't fully share it with anyone.
It's heavy stuff. And there's that chilling moment when the Giver tells him, you may lie.
Oh, wow.
It's this stark reminder of the community's control over information
Right.
and the importance of maintaining the facade, even if it means sacrificing honesty.
Yeah, that's a line that could really spark discussion in the classroom.
For sure.
Encourage your students to think about times when they've felt different, when they've struggled to speak up against the majority.
Yeah. What are the risks and rewards of going against the grain?
And that leads us to, I think, the critical theme of choice.
Yes.
In Jonas's community, every detail of life is planned.
Yeah.
Your spouse, your job, your family unit. What's the impact of living without real choices?
I think the novel shows us that choice, even with its risks, is fundamental to what makes us human.
Okay.
It's through our choices that we define ourselves,
Right.
grow and find meaning.
Jonas comes to this realization when he says, I want to wake up in the morning and decide things.
Yeah.
That desire for agency, for the ability to shape his own life, becomes a driving force.
Absolutely. And the giver echoes this sentiment when he says, it's the choosing that's important, isn't it? He understands that without choice, we're essentially robots,
Right.
going through the motions without true purpose or passion.
It's a chilling thought.
Oh.
And ultimately, Jonas makes a choice.
Yes, he does.
He chooses to leave the community. He believes that taking back the memories, taking back the power of choice, is worth the risk. It's a powerful culmination of his journey. It's a testament to his courage, his compassion, and his belief in the importance of individual freedom.
It's a powerful ending. And it's an ending that will stay with your students long after they finish the book.
Oh, absolutely.
And it opens up so many opportunities for meaningful discussion in your classroom.
It does. If you're looking for resources to guide those discussions
Yes.
and deepen your students' understanding of The Giver,
Yeah.
we highly recommend checking out the novel studies that are available on Teachers Pay Teachers.
Yes, they're packed with activities, discussion prompts, and everything you need to create a truly engaging and thought-provoking learning experience.
Absolutely.
But for now, let's take a quick pause,
Okay.
and we'll be right back to dive even deeper into The Giver.
Welcome back to the deep dive.
So we've been exploring some of these big ideas in The Giver.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that makes this novel so effective is that it puts you, the reader,
Yes.
in Jonas's shoes.
Yeah.
You experience the world through his senses, or rather, lack thereof.
Exactly. Lowry does such a masterful job of conveying the starkness and the sterility of this community through Jonas's limited perspective. For instance, remember that scene where he tries to describe a sled
Yes.
to someone who has never experienced snow or hills?
Right. He says, how could you describe a hill and snow to someone who had never felt height or wind or that feathery magical cold?
Yeah.
It's such a powerful moment.
It is.
That really highlights the limitations of language in a world where so much has been lost.
It's a great example of how Lowry uses language to make us feel the absence.
Yes.
The void created by the community's suppression of sensory experiences.
And as Jonas receives more memories from the giver, his language starts to change.
Oh, absolutely.
It becomes richer,
Yes.
more nuanced.
More evocative.
Yeah. It's like the memories are awakening not just his senses, but also his ability to express himself, to articulate these complexities of human emotion.
That's a great point. It's a subtle but powerful shift that you can definitely point out to your students.
sure, yeah.
Have them track how his vocabulary and his descriptions evolve throughout the novel.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think it underscores this idea that language itself is a form of freedom,
Right.
a way to kind of express our individuality and connect with others on a deeper level.
I love that. And speaking of change, let's talk about Jonas's character development.
Okay.
He starts as this somewhat naive, rule-following member of the community.
Right.
But as he receives more memories, his perspective shifts dramatically.
You can almost feel the weight of those memories.
Yes.
Pressing down on him, forcing him to question everything he's ever been taught.
There's this one quote that I think really captures that internal struggle.
Okay.
He says, "They were satisfied with their lives, which had none of the vibrance his own was taking on. And he was angry at himself that he could not change that for them."
Oh, wow. That's powerful.
That is.
Because he wants to share this newfound awareness,
Right.
this sense of vibrancy,
Yeah.
but he knows he can't.
Yeah. At least not directly.
Not directly. And I think that sense of isolation, of carrying this heavy knowledge alone,
Yeah.
is really what kind of drives his transformation.
Absolutely. It's what drives him to make the choices that he does.
And speaking of choices, the giver is another fascinating character to explore with your students.
Yes.
He's this wise, enigmatic figure
Mm-hmm.
who guides Jonas through his training,
Right.
but he's also deeply burdened by the weight of the memories he carries.
Oh, he understands the importance of memory. He understands the vital role that it plays in shaping human understanding and empathy.
Yeah.
There's this beautiful quote where he says, of course they needed to care. It was the meaning of everything.
Wow. He's carrying the weight of the world's sorrows.
Right.
But he also understands that those sorrows are what make us human,
Yes.
what teach us compassion and give our lives meaning.
It's a beautiful sentiment.
It is.
Yeah.
Such a complex character
Ye-
who embodies both the wisdom and the pain of holding on to the past.
Yes. And his relationship with Jonas is so beautifully portrayed by Lowry.
It's a relationship built on trust, respect,
Yeah.
and a shared understanding of this profound responsibility that they both carry.
It really is a great mentorship for Jonas.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
And, I think in the classroom, you can really delve into that.
Absolutely.
Encourage your students to think about, the dynamics between Jonas and the giver.
Yeah. How does their relationship evolve?
Exactly. How does it evolve? What do they learn from each other?
What do they learn from each other?
And how does this mentorship, this passing of knowledge, relate to the themes of memory and identity that we've been discussing?
Right. These are all great questions to explore, and I think they highlight just how rich and layered this novel is.
It is.
How many endless opportunities there are for discussion and analysis.
And I think one of the most compelling aspects of The Giver
Okay.
is Lowry's use of symbolism.
Oh, absolutely. The novel is full of these really potent symbols that represent these contrasting ideas and themes. Light versus darkness.
Right.
Color versus sameness, memory versus forgetting.
And these contrasting elements create this constant tension throughout the story, forcing us to question what we perceive as good or bad, right or wrong.
For instance, the color red, which we've talked about a bit already,
Yes.
is this recurring symbol that represents beauty and pain, passion and danger.
Wow.
It's a complex symbol that evolves in meaning as Jonas's understanding of the world deepens.
And then there's the symbol of the sled,
Oh, yeah.
which represents freedom, joy, and connection to the natural world, but is also a symbol of risk and potential danger.
Right, as we see in Jonas's early memory of sledding down the hill.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It reminds us that with choice comes responsibility,
Absolutely.
and that even in a world that strives for safety and saneness, there's always an element of the unknown.
Always. And speaking of the unknown, let's not forget about the ending.
Oh, yes, the ending.
One of the most discussed and debated endings in young adult literature.
It's ambiguous. It's thought-provoking.
Yeah, and without giving anything away, it's safe to say that the ending of The Giver is open to interpretation.
Right.
It leaves you with the sense of hope, but also with some lingering questions.
It doesn't tie everything up neatly in a bow.
No.
It challenges us to think critically about the choices we make, the kind of world we want to live in,
Yeah.
and the importance of holding on to hope, even in the face of adversity.
And I think that ambiguity is what makes it so perfect for classroom discussion.
Absolutely.
It invites students to share their own interpretations, to debate those different perspectives, and ultimately come to their own conclusions.
For sure. Yeah, and I think, if you're looking for ways to guide those discussions, the novel studies on Teachers Pay Teachers are an incredible resource.
They are.
They provide all sorts of activities and prompts that will help your students delve into the novel's complexities
Yeah.
and really grapple with those big ideas.
It's definitely worth checking out.
It is. But for now, let's shift our focus to a couple of other important aspects of the novel.
Okay. Sounds good. What else should we explore?
Okay, so we've been talking about symbolism and the ending,
Right.
but I want to circle back to this theme of choice.
Yeah.
Because it's so central to the novel.
Absolutely.
I mean, Lowry really drives home this importance of choice by contrasting Jonas's community with the world before sameness.
Exactly. And she uses, the concept of assigned spouses and jobs
Yes.
to highlight what's lost when individual choice is taken away.
It's almost impossible for us to even imagine living in a world
I know.
where you don't get to choose who you spend your life with or what you dedicate your days to.
It really makes you appreciate the freedom that we have,
It does.
even with all the challenges and uncertainties that come with it.
Right.
So The Giver forces us to ask, what happens to a society when that freedom is suppressed? What are the implications for individual growth and happiness?
And speaking of heavy stuff, we have to talk about the concept of release.
Right.
It's presented initially as this peaceful and humane way
Yes.
to deal with those who don't fit in.
Right.
But as Jonas learns more, he realizes the truth is far more sinister.
Yeah, it becomes clear that release is a euphemism for something far more chilling.
Right.
A way to eliminate individuality and maintain control.
And that scene where Jonas witnesses the release of the twin
Oh my gosh.
is absolutely gut-wrenching.
It is.
It's a turning point for him, a moment of brutal awakening.
Yeah, and I think it's a scene that you could use in your classroom to spark some really powerful discussions
Oh, absolutely.
about ethics and morality
Yep.
and the dangers of blind obedience.
And it's also a powerful reminder that even in a seemingly perfect world,
Right.
there are always those who are marginalized,
Yeah,
silenced,
Yeah.
or disposed of.
absolutely. The Giver really encourages us to question these systems of structures
Right.
that create inequalities and to think critically about how we can create a more just and compassionate world.
And speaking of creating a better world, I mean, that's ultimately what Jonas is trying to do
Yeah.
when he chooses to leave the community.
Absolutely.
He's not just escaping.
Right.
He's rebelling against a system that he believes is fundamentally flawed.
Yes. He's taking a stand for individual freedom, for memory, for the right to experience that full spectrum of human emotion.
His decision is so courageous, especially considering the risks involved,
There really is.
but it's also an act of hope. He believes that by bringing back the memories, he can help the community rediscover what it means to be human.
And I think that's why this story resonates so deeply with readers young and old,
It does.
because it speaks to that innate desire for freedom, for meaning, for connection.
Yeah.
It reminds us that even in the darkest of times, hope can endure and change is possible.
And as educators, you have the power to bring these messages to your students, to spark their imaginations and encourage them to think critically about the world around them.
Absolutely. The Giver is not just a dystopian novel.
Right.
It's a call to action.
Yes.
It's a reminder that we all have a role to play in creating a more just and compassionate future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if you're looking for resources to support you in this endeavor,
Yes.
we highly recommend checking out the novel studies
Yeah.
on Teachers Pay Teachers. They provide a wealth of activities,
They do.
discussion prompts, and teaching strategies that will help you engage your students in meaningful conversations about The Giver and its enduring themes.
I love that. So we've only scratched the surface of The Giver.
We have. But hopefully this deep dive
Wait.
has given you some insights into why it's such a powerful and relevant work for young minds.
Absolutely. A story that sparks conversation,
Yes.
challenges assumptions, and ultimately invites us all to consider the kind of world we want to live in.
I think that's a perfect way to sum it up. So thank you for joining us on this deep dive into The Giver.